I was part of an expedition, another government gig, just like the ones before, except this time, it wasn't some desert or jungle. It was the far north, a stretch of the Arctic Circle so remote that not even the Inuits bothered going there. My job? Logistics, as always. I wasn't the one drilling holes in the ice or taking samples. I just kept everything running. Power, heat, communications, but that place, it doesn't let you stay the same. It changes you. It did to me. And once you hear my story, it'll change you too. The helicopter ride and felt like flying into another world, endless white below, an empty, yawning sky above. Nothing but the deafening whine of the rotors, and even that seemed small compared to the silence outside. The team? Paleoclimatologists, geologists, biologists, all the eggheads you'd expect. Me? Just the guy making sure no one froze to death. We landed at a place the scientists had been raving about for months, a glacier that, according to the ice core samples, hadn't melted in over 100,000 years. Perfectly preserved, they said. A frozen timeline of Earth's climate, locked away in ice. It was supposed to be the key to unlocking mysteries about ancient weather patterns, atmospheric conditions, even the Earth's magnetic shifts. But none of that mattered after what we found. The first couple of days were uneventful. The scientists set up their gear, and I made sure the generators ran, the heating units worked, and the comms were up. At first, I enjoyed the solitude. The silence of the Arctic is different than anywhere else on Earth. It's not peaceful, it's suffocating. Even the wind didn't howl, it just whispered. Quietly, like it didn't want you to hear. On the third night, I woke up to that wind. It was colder than I ever felt before, like something had seeped through the walls of my tent. It didn't feel natural, but I shrugged it off. You learn not to spook yourself on gigs like this. The cold plays tricks on your mind. But it wasn't just the cold that was different. The equipment started acting up. Radios cut out. Our GPS started glitching, telling us we were miles away from where we actually were. Sensors we planted in the ice sent back erratic data, temperature fluctuations, electromagnetic anomalies, seismic readings that didn't make sense. The Arctic is unpredictable, sure, but this? It felt deliberate. Then the whispers began. They started softly, so faint I thought I was imagining them. It was like the wind was carrying something hidden beneath it, a voice just out of reach. I'd hear it while I was alone, walking between the tents or standing outside checking the instruments. A murmur, like a conversation too far away to catch. I didn't mention it to the others. Who would believe me? But then the dreams started. Each night, it got worse. I'd dream of being buried in the ice, frozen, unable to move or speak. But I wasn't alone. I could feel something next to me, behind me, above me, something ancient, watching, waiting. I could hear it whispering, calling me deeper. The others started acting strange too. Dr. Oswald, the lead scientist, became more obsessive by the day. He was excited, too excited, about some readings we were getting from deep beneath the glacier. He wouldn't stop talking about a discovery that would change everything. He barely slept, and when he did, he'd wake up muttering to himself, his eyes darting around like he was looking for something in the dark. One night, after another bad dream, I woke to find Oswald sitting outside my tent, just staring at the glacier. The moonlight reflected off the ice, making it glow in an eerie blue hue. He didn't look at me when I called his name, just kept staring ahead, muttering something under his breath. When I got closer, I heard it. They're waiting. They're still here, just beneath the ice, waiting for us. I didn't sleep well after that. A week into the mission, the drilling team broke through something. At first, we thought it was rock, a natural formation under the glacier. But when they lowered the camera down the hole, everything changed. I'll never forget what I saw on that screen. The camera descended through layers of ancient ice, some of it millions of years old. We expected to see dirt, maybe some fossils. But as the feed flickered in and out, we caught glimpses of structures, not natural formations, but shapes. Carvings. The camera landed on something dark. At first, we couldn't tell what it was, just a black mass, blurry through the ice. But as it zoomed in, I saw them. Figures, human-like, frozen in the ice, preserved in grotesque, twisted positions. Some were standing, others crouched or lying prone, their faces locked in expressions of terror, their bodies contorted as if they had been caught mid-scream. "What the hell is that?" one of the researchers asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Oswald leaned in close to the screen, eyes wide. This is it. This is what we've been looking for. They're here." I didn't understand. "Who's here?" "The ancient ones," he whispered. "The ones who lived before the ice. The ones who survived." A shiver ran down my spine. The temperature inside the tent suddenly felt like it had dropped 10 degrees. But it wasn't just the cold. There was something wrong about those frozen figures, something unnatural. They weren't fossils. They weren't dead. They were preserved too perfectly. And as I stared at their wide, terrified eyes, I couldn't shake the feeling that they were somehow alive. Oswald wanted to go down into the hole. He said we needed to study them to unlock the secrets they held. But I wanted nothing to do with it. I'd seen enough. I told him it was dangerous, that we didn't know what we were dealing with. But Oswald wouldn't listen. He was obsessed. That night, the voices came back. Only this time, they weren't whispers. The next day, Oswald, against my protests, gathered a team to descend into the hole. I wasn't supposed to go, but something pulled me toward it. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was something else. I don't know. But I joined them. As we descended, the cold intensified. It was like the ice itself was draining the heat from our bodies. The walls of the shaft were smooth, unnaturally so, with strange symbols etched into them, symbols none of us could decipher. They felt wrong, like they weren't meant to be seen by human eyes. At the bottom, we came face to face with the frozen figures. Up close, they were even more horrifying. Their skin, though encased in ice, still had a faint color to it, like they hadn't been frozen for millennia but mere days. Their eyes, wide open and filled with terror, seemed to follow us as we moved around them. Oswald knelt in front of one of the figures, his breath fogging the ice. "They were trapped here," he muttered, almost reverently. "But they're not dead. They're waiting." He pulled out a pick and began chipping at the ice around the figure's arm. I wanted to stop him, to pull him away, but I was rooted in place, frozen by the same dread that had been building inside me since we arrived. The crack in the ice was small at first. Just a hairline fracture. But as Oswald continued, it spread, snaking its way across the surface like a spider's web. And then the ice exploded. Shards of ice flew in all directions, cutting through our suits, slicing into our skin. I stumbled back, clutching my face, but when I looked up, the thing inside the ice was moving. It wasn't slow or clumsy like you'd expect from something that had been frozen for thousands of years. It moved with a horrifying speed, lunging at Oswald before he had a chance to react. Its long, twisted fingers wrapped around his throat, lifting him off the ground effortlessly. I heard the sickening snap of his neck before I saw his body crumple to the ground. Panic erupted. The other researchers screamed, scrambling to escape, but there was no way out. The figures in the ice, they were waking up. One by one, they broke free, their bodies unfolding with unnatural agility, their faces still twisted in those grotesque expressions of terror. But they were no longer frozen in place. They moved with purpose. I don't know how I made it out. I don't remember running, but somehow, I found myself back at the surface, gasping for air, my heart pounding in my chest. The camp was in chaos. The other researchers were gone, either dead or missing. The whispers were louder now, no longer carried by the wind but echoing inside my own skull. I grabbed what I could and ran. I don't know how long I wandered in the snow before they found me. Days, maybe. Weeks. They told me I was lucky to be alive, but I knew better. I wasn't lucky. I was spared. The officials who debriefed me were cold, methodical. They didn't believe me when I told them what had happened. They said the team must have died in an accident, a collapse, perhaps, or exposure to the elements. They said there was no evidence of anything unusual at the site. But I know the truth. They're still down there, buried beneath the ice. Waiting. And they won't wait much longer. You feel it, don't you? That cold creeping up your spine. The way the air feels too still. The way the shadows seem to stretch just a little too far. They're watching. They always have been. They're coming for us all. Because they never left.